Hey, what's going on, guys? We got a new article today for Armada, and in this article, basically, we get the 2015 World Champion Jonathan Reinig is giving us his card that he created, Governor Pryce. So here it is in front of you guys. It's a pretty interesting card. My first glance at it, I was kind of blown away, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about the thought process that I had going into it. But it's restricted to medium or large ship only, so you can't put this thing on a demolisher. And it says, after deploying fleets, you may place one round token on this card. If you do during the round matching the round token, you must activate at the end of the ship phase after all other ships have activated. So basically, this is kind of addressing a major problem with large ships, specifically ISDs. In that if you're running an ISD, you tend to not have that many ships. A lot of ISD lists have only 3 ships. There's some 2 ISD lists, and in the past they've felt kind of compelled to have a couple of Gazantes in the list also, just so they have enough activations. And then those Gazantes end up taking up valuable points that could have went towards upgrades or could have went towards squadrons, and it ends up being a little bit hollow. And so this is kind of allowing like a 2 or 3 ship list to still not really suffer from, you know, not having that many activations. And that's kind of, I think, the intent of this card. And I've got to say, I do like the intent. I do like the idea that they're addressing some of the weaknesses of large ships or very expensive ships. Nothing looks better than a big old huge ISD on the battlefield, except maybe a superstar destroyer someday. I'm just saying. All right, but I mean, an ISD looks great. Now, Liberty looks great too. All right, and the problem that those big ships, of course, you can't put her with the rebels. She's an Imperial. But the problem with those big ships is that you can't, you know, you can't get all the advantage that you get with a small ship. Small ships have just so many advantages, and that's why I like to run Architans as much as I do. And it's not even that I'm like that crazy about that ship. I think thematically, I'd like to have 1 or 2 Architans in a list, maybe just as support ships, or, you know, offering a little extra firepower. But it's just so much nicer to have, you know, the thematics. I would love to be able to run 2 or even 3 ISDs, and I think hopefully after Wave 7 that's going to come. So the big problem I have with this one, the biggest problem I have with Governor Pryce is the keyword "must" on this card. Must is a big problem, because if only this ship said you may, like right here, you must activate at the end of the ship phase. That's crucial, because it takes away your options. And because now all of a sudden, if you've got that kill shot and somebody else's ship is right in front of yours, well, you can't. You have to let them go first. It doesn't matter. Even if you're first player, you still have to let them go first. That's a problem. That's for an officer that costs 7 points. That's a pretty big, like, you're getting a tremendous, awesome, you know, bonus from this, but you're also getting a tremendous weakness, potentially a tremendous weakness. So I'm not a big fan of that. This definitely works best if you're first player, so you can be the last and then first. Even with a 2-ship list, you can potentially be last and then first, which is nice. And that's one of the reasons I always like to, in the past, I've liked to have at least 5 or more ships, is so that if I do end up as first player, I can be like, I can have the last activation and then the first activation. So this is allowing you to do that with just about any kind of list, which is great. But yes, it also broadcasts your plan at the beginning of the game, basically. So after you guys have deployed fleets, you're gonna be like, okay, you're right there, I'm right here. All right, so if you choose, let's say you choose turn 3, which is a reasonable turn to choose. Now all of a sudden your opponent knows, oh, so turn 3 is the turn that this is going to be the ship that activates last. No problem. Now I know that I need to plan so that turn 2, I'm moving everybody to where they can either shoot you, or it can be in a position to shoot you the next turn. So dropping them right in front of your ISD at the end of turn 2, after you've moved, of course. So this way, when turn 3 comes, all right, you have to activate your other ISD, but now the Governor Pryce's ISD, oh, no problem. Well, I got my 7 CR90s all in range, but we're just all going to shoot and then move away, shoot and move away. And then by the time this one does activate, all of those ships are out of your arc, because your opponent's going to know what you choose. It's not a secret choice, right? It's a public choice. Your opponent's going to know which turn you're planning to have that last shot and can just react accordingly. So that much is a problem. I don't like that aspect of it, especially if you're going to choose turn 3. So I think it might be a better option to use on a squadron, on a carrier. Specifically trying to use squadrons. Squadrons have a little more flexibility when you activate them. They can go pretty much wherever they want. They can attack other squadrons. They can attack other ships. You know, and one example in this article is that they talked about, well, maybe you could use it on a quasar because you can use it on medium ships as well. Problem there is that quasars really don't even need this help. The quasar only has 1 officer slot, right? And then generally there's probably better officers for you to put there. There's all kinds of officers that synergize with the quasar more than this will. And also the quasar is so cheap, you probably aren't going to have any activation problems. If you're running a quasar, you might have 4 or more activations in that list already. You probably don't need this. That's kind of my problem. So what can you do? I think you might want to consider, you know, and it depends on the list. I think you might want to consider running this for turn 2, especially if you're running. I mean, if you're running her on an ISD, which I think is the ideal platform, you run it for turn 2. Your other ships this way. 2 or 3 are like the most crucial turns, especially if you're going kind of fast and you're trying to get into shooting range fairly quickly, against other, you know, fast ships as well. If you are going up against like a whole bunch of victories or really slow ships and they're all starting off at speed 1, well then of course maybe turn 3 would be fine. You might even think about turn 4, but I mean turn 3 is probably fine there. But if you're going up against faster ships, I think turn 2 is the turn where you're going to want to make sure you're going last, especially so that you're in position to shoot first on turn 3. You know, definitely line up for the most shots you can. Gunnery team is going to be really important there. I think that's probably the smarter way to use this. It will be interesting to see when this card comes out what kind of impact this is going to have on the meta. Imagine if Governor Pryce comes into the game, leads to more and more people running two-ship fleets. And now all of a sudden, you don't even have to have Governor Pryce in your fleet to run a 2-ship fleet, because if you're expecting everybody in your area is running, you know, 2-ship fleets, well, now that might become the new meta. It might lead to quicker games. It might lead to, you know, more thematic games. Might even make the game a little more fun, or at least a different kind of fun. Maybe you're going to enjoy this new 2-ship meta. I'm not actually predicting we're going to see a 2-ship meta, but in theory, you might see the average fleet size come down a little bit as a result of this, especially if you know everybody else is running, let's say 3 ships, right? If 3 ships become more and more popular, which you do still see 3 ships from time to time. I almost never see 2 ships. It's very rare. But yeah, you know that might become the thing now. You know, it's very rare, I should say, from my perspective. I've only seen 1 2-ship fleet. Maybe 2 in the entire time I've played Armada. It's just very rare for me in Orlando, right? But I know some people do it. I know it is done. I know it's the 2 ISD list was a big thing recently. I think I have my own issues with that, but I think this might give it some, you know, possibilities. Another ship I could definitely see running this on is a Victory. And the reason for that is I would put, you know, the Victory also gets the benefit of disposable capacitors. So if you run, you know, a disposable capacitors Victory with maybe spinal armament and, you know, and all the bells and whistles to get your blue dice rerolls out of there, or maybe Vader as your commander, perhaps. Well, now, even if, let's say, you chose wrong. Let's say you chose right. And the person's like, oh, well, they come into your medium range or your close range, you're fine. All right. And it's for Vic 2 specifically. Well, if you didn't choose just right and all your enemies are still at long range when it's your turn to activate, well, then you pop those disposable capacitors. So it makes it, a Victory might be the best option for Governor Pryce. It's certainly something to consider. It's something I will try once this comes out. I think that'll be a fun one, as a Victory with disposable capacitors is another option here. But yeah, I think it'll be really interesting. I'm curious to see how this shakes up the meta, and I'd love to hear what you guys think. Also, if you haven't already, check out my Galactic Supremacy that is going to be coming on. I'll be doing the Armada build for that one shortly, probably this week. And then I'll be doing all the other games, what builds they're going to bring to this giant Royal Rumble of games. So that one will be a lot of fun. And I'm doing a giveaway for that one as well. If you share the Galactic Supremacy video, my original post on Facebook or my original tweet on Twitter, if you retweet or share one of those, you're automatically entered to win a $20 gift card to cool stuff for an expansion of your choice. So make sure you check those out. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment, and make sure you subscribe and click the bell for alerts so you don't want to miss anything. A lot of stuff coming up. Last Jedi comes out this week, so I will have a movie review, a non-spoilery movie review for that coming very soon. And then we'll talk spoilers after that, and of course that video will definitely be clearly marked spoilers, and we'll talk all about that. A lot of awesome stuff to talk about. I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.